and where we stopped in our last session. We stopped at here. Conditional statements we completed, correct? So we completed conditional statements. Now let us see. Okay, so we have seen some examples with the conditional statements in the last session, and let us continue the discussion of VBScript, and today we could complete it. See, the next topic is so do you have any doubts, Chari or Subara? You have any doubts till this topics, conditional statements, arrays, variables, declarations, and data types, what we discussed? Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. Okay. Now, today let us continue loop statements. That is the next one topic. Loop statements. So, what are the different types of loops we can use in VBScript? See, in VBScript, the first loop, simple loop, is while loop. So, before the do loop statement. Do loop is a simple loop statement in VBScript we can use, and this do loop has different formats. We can write do loop in different formats, and we'll see one by one what all the loops are available. Go to new file, do loop. See, let us take one example here to display. Okay, let me take simple example. Suppose if I want to print, if I want to okay, suppose I want to take this, what is that, even odd example. Let us take this example. In even odd example, what we are doing, we are finding that whether the entered or given number is even number or odd number. Now this particular program will be running only for one time. So this program will execute only once. This input box will be displayed only once, and you will be entering the value, and it will display that entered value is even or odd. Are you clear? Suppose if you want repeat, I want to keep repeat same steps until I entered 0 in that input box. That means, see, let us take this example. I'm taking this example. See here, in this example, what this code will do, it will display input box with the text box. In that text box, you can enter the number value, and then we are finding whether that number is even or odd, and we are displaying that message. After displaying the message, again I want to display input box for next number. Again user can enter the value. Again it should display that second value is even or odd. Again it should display one more input box. Like this, I want to keep display the input boxes until I enter 0 in the input box. When we enter 0, then it should stop this execution. Are you clear? See how I'm changing this. Simply find even or odd until 0 entered. 0 is entered. This is my program. I want to write one small program to find or to print or display, I can say display even or odd until 0 is entered. So how to add this one? See, now I will be adding do loop here. How we can add do loop? Simply do, here I am putting loop. So I have written all these statements. Now save this one. I am saving this do loop. Okay, do loop example dot VBS. Save it. Done. Now look, just understand this simple program. I have put do loop, and here it will display input box, and in that input box we can enter the number, and for that number it will find whether it is even or odd number, and that message will be displayed. After displaying this message, again it will repeat the same loop, same steps execution one more time. Again control will go to this step automatically. So again it will display input box, again we enter the value, again it will display even or odd message. Once again it will go to this loop statement. Like this do loop will be continuing this steps execution continuously. How many times this do loop will be running? Infinite times, infinite number of times. So now at present this do loop is infinite loop. That means we have not defined how many times this loop should be executed. It will keep continuously running this loop. Are you clear? If it is 0, see, if n is equal to 0, if n equal to 0, then I want to stop it. So we are adding here condition to stop the loop execution. Exit do. Are you clear? If I don't add this if condition inside this do loop will be running infinite times. That means it will be running continuously. It will never stop the execution. Understand? But I want to stop this loop. When I want to stop the loop? Whenever we enter number 0 in the input box, then I want to stop it. I don't want to find any more even or odd messages. I don't want to display any more messages. I want to stop this execution. I want to stop this do loop execution. So that's why we are writing here one if condition, and inside this if condition I am writing here exit do. So this exit do statement will stop the do loop execution. If you don't use exit do, this do loop will be running forever. That means that the do loop will become infinite loop. Are you clear? Now save this and let me run this do loop. See, 0 is default value. Now enter some value 5. It displays 5 is odd number. Now click OK. Again it will display input box. So again enter some other value. Click OK. Again it will display input box. Like this, the input box will be keep continuously displaying. Are you clear? Until we keep this 0 as the value in this text box. Click OK. Now it is stopped. Are you understanding? So this do loop, how we are using do loop? I want repeat these steps execution continuously. And when I want to stop this do loop, whenever n value is equal to 0, then I want to stop this do loop execution. So we are using here exit do statement to stop that do loop execution. So this is a simple do loop statement. Simple do loop statement. So inside the do loop, how you are stop the do loop execution? By using exit do. It is mandatory. If you don't use this exit do statement inside the do loop will become infinite loop. So we should not use infinite loops in a script, because if there is any infinite loop in a script, what will happen? The execution will be keep running, it will never stop. So we should not have any infinite loops in the program, in our script. We should be taking care of that. So if you are using simple do loop statement, then definitely you should have to use exit do statement to stop that loop at some point of time. Are you clear? This is the simple do loop statement. So the simple do loop statement, what will do? It continuously run the loop. So it is actually by default infinite loop. By default it is infinite loop. By default it is infinite loop. By default it is infinite loop. So we should use exit do statement to stop the do loop execution. Are you clear? This is about do loop, simple do loop. And we have some other formats of do loop statements. We can write do loop in other formats. Do while loop. It is another format of do while loop. So how we can rewrite same program by using do while loop without using if condition and without using this exit do statements? Instead of using these three lines, without using these three statements, we can use here do while loop. Let me save as do while loop .vbs. Then now see here I am writing do while and I remove these three statements. Do while n greater than 0. This is my condition. See, now we modified slightly the code to use do while loop for the same program, in the same script. First, before do while, we are reading the first value into this n variable, and inside this do while we are checking this condition. If this condition is greater than 0, that means if n value is greater than 0, then this condition will be true. If this while condition is true, only then this loop will be running. If this while condition is false, then this loop will not be executed and it will come out of this loop. So when this do while loop will be running? Only if this while condition is true, only then this loop will be running. If this while condition is false, it will stop that loop execution. So whenever n value is greater than 0, then it will run. Again, at the end of the loop, in the last statement, what we are doing? Again, we are getting the next number from the user as input. Again, this n value should be greater than 0. Only then it will run second time. Again, at the end of the loop, again we are getting next number. Again, this new number should be greater than 0. Only then it will run this loop. If this n is not greater than 0, then this loop will not be running and it will come out of this do while loop execution. Are you clear? So this is do while loop. Let us see this do while loop. Execute this. So it is asking number, enter number. So 8 is even number. See, again it is asking enter number. Again it is asking to enter a number. When you enter this value 0 here, now it will stop the execution. So that is this logic. So how this do while loop is working now? Do while loop, it executes the loop as long as while condition is true. If the while condition is false, it will stop the execution. It stops loop execution if while condition is false. If while condition is false. So like this it will work. Do loop, do while loop. What is the syntax of do loop? Simple, it is do loop. Do and steps. Some steps. Loop. That is the syntax. Syntax. Okay. Now similarly, do while syntax. Do while, and here we have to define a condition and some steps and loop. It is a do while loop syntax. Okay. Now similarly, do loop while. It is another format of do loop. Do loop while. We can rewrite same program using do loop while as well. Save as do loop while. Do loop while dot VBS. Save it. So very simple here. Do loop while means you can write this statement inside the do loop. No need to write before the do loop here. And this condition will be coming here. And we can remove this. Sorry. No, we cannot get this. We have to write it here itself. Do remove this. Yeah. This is the format. Like this we have to write. First we are getting first number, and for this number we are running this code and we are displaying whether that first number is odd or even. After that again we are getting the second number, next number, and now this number value we are checking whether this n is greater than 0 or not. If it is greater than 0, it will continue the second loop. If it is not greater than 0, it will come out from here. That means, what is the difference between do while loop and do loop while? Do loop while. Do while loop. See, when you run this do while loop statement, where is that? Not open. Okay, open do while loop. This is do while loop. See, in the do while loop, we are checking the condition at the beginning of the loop. Here, this is the do while loop, right? At the beginning of the loop, we are checking the condition. If this condition is false, first time itself, this loop will not be running. If the condition is false second time, loop will be running once. If condition is false in the third time, loop will be running 2 times. That means what is the minimum number of times the do while loop will be running? How many times the do while loop will be running? Minimum times. What is the minimum number of iterations the loop will be running? Minimum iterations for this one. Okay, do loop, it will be running at least once. And here 0. Is it right? That means if the do while loop, the while condition is failed at the first time, the loop will not be running. So the number of times the do while loop will be running minimum 0 times. Are you clear? 0 times. And the do loop while, if you look into this do loop while, the condition will be verified at the end of the loop, not at the beginning of the loop. In the do loop while statement, the condition will be checked at the end of the loop. So the do loop while will be running at least once, minimum once. Are you clear? So the do loop while, the same logic here also, the do loop while also, but only difference is here condition, while condition will be verified at the beginning of the loop, that is the beginning of loop. And here the while condition will be checked at the end of the loop. That is the difference between do while loop and do loop while. This point is the difference. This is the difference between do while loop and do loop while. Okay, the syntax is the while condition will become at the end of the loop, not at the beginning. Here it will come. And what is the minimum iterations it will be running? Minimum one time. Minimum one time it will be running. So that is do loop while. And similarly we have 2 more formats of do loop. We can use do until also. Do until or do loop until. Similar to do while, we can use do until condition in the do loop statement. So let us see that. Let us take this first do until loop. Save as do until loop dot VBS. And here I am going to use until condition, not while condition. Here I should define G equal. The condition will be changing. See, first we are getting n equal to, and this condition, if this condition is true, then this loop will be stopped. The loop execution will be stopped. If this condition is false, then it will continue the loop execution. It is opposite to do while condition. In the do while loop, what is happening? If condition is true, it will continue the loop execution. If the condition is false, it will stop the loop execution in the do while loop statement. But in do until loop statement, if this condition is true, it will stop the execution, and if the condition is false, it will run the loop. That means it works completely opposite to do while loop. Are you clear? So here the condition, that's why I modified here the condition. In the do while loop, what is the condition we are using? N greater than 0. But in until, that means I won't run this loop until n equal to 0. That is the meaning of that. This loop will be running until n value is 0. If n value is not 0, then it will run. Whenever n equal to 0, it will stop. That means until n value is equal to 0, it will continue the execution. Whenever n value equal to 0, it will stop it. Are you clear? So this is the fourth format, do until loop. How it works? It executes the loop if as long as until condition is false. Until condition is false. Okay? It stops the execution, stops the loop execution if condition is true. If condition is true. So it is completely opposite to do while loop. Okay? And here where condition will be verified? Condition will be verified at the beginning of the loop. Be checked at the beginning of the loop. Okay? And what is the syntax? We can take this do while syntax. And minimum iterations also same like do while. Instead of while, we should write here until. Minimum iterations 0. Okay, so this is do until. Now let me run this, see that is it running or not. Do until. It is it. So it displays 5, 4. Again it repeats. Okay, so if it is 0, it will stop the execution. So the same logic it is working good. Do until is running fine. In the same way how do while is working. Okay, the same way we can define this until condition in the loop at the end of the loop. So let us try that also. Save as do loop until. Do loop until .vbs file. So here we define this condition here. That's it. And save it. So again it will be running the same way. Do loop until. Now the condition will be verified at the end of the loop. Until this condition is true, it will be running. The same way it will work. So now run this do loop until. It is a do loop until. So enter some values. 9 is odd, 8 is even, 7 is odd. So if it is 0, it will stop the loop. So what is the difference between do loop until? You can copy same thing. It is do loop until is the different format, another format of. It executes the loop as long as until condition is false, and it stops the loop execution if condition is true, right? But condition will be checked at the end of the loop. At the end of the loop. And the syntax, the until condition should be defined after the loop. And number of times it will be running, minimum 1 time it will be running. Okay, so these are the do loop statements we can use in VBScript. So this is simple thing. Do loop we can use very frequently in the real time scripting as well. Very easy to use this do loop. So when we use this do loop, generally if you want to repeat some group of steps execution multiple times based on some condition, as long as some condition is true or as long as some condition is false, I want to run some group of steps multiple times. So in this scenario, in such scenario, we can use this do loop statement. Are you clear? When we use this do loop, when to use do loop in the script? To run group of steps multiple times as long as some condition is true or false. That is a scenario. If you have like this any scenario in our test case or in the program, then we can use this do loop statement. Okay, fine. So the next loop statement, while loop, while when, while loop. It is called while loop, simple while loop, while loop, or I can say it is a while when. While loop, it is not a do while, it is simply while loop. See how to use this while loop. It is same as do while, no difference. There is no much difference between while and do while. Let me see that. Save as. I am saving do while loop as a while when .vbs. So instead of removing here, instead of writing do, I am writing here while and write that condition while n greater than 0 and remove this here. End of the while loop is wend, W-E-N-D, wend is the statement. This is the end of the while loop, while wend. So same logic. So here this while loop is same as do while. Do while loop also will do same thing. What do while loop will, how do while loop will be running? As long as the while condition is true, the do while loop will be running. Same thing, the while loop also will be running as long as the while condition is true. If the while condition is false, the do while loop and while loop both will stop the execution. That means the logic of do while loop and while loop is same. Then what is the difference between do while and while? What this while will do? It will be running same way how this do while loop is running. The same way it will run. It executes the loop as long as the while condition is true. It stops the loop. It stops the loop if the condition is false. If the condition is false. And while condition will be verified at the beginning of the loop. So all these points are same for while loop as well. So for in the while loop we don't try to do, and end of the while loop is wend, not loop. This is the difference. Only syntax is different. The syntax changes, but logic of do while and while loop both are same. Even minimum iterations also same, no difference. And we have one more small difference between do while and while loop. We can't use exit statement in while loop. This is another important difference between do while and while loop. In a do while loop, we can use exit do statement. If you want to stop the do loop execution in the middle, we can use exit do statement. It is possible. We can, that means we can write like this, open do while loop. See, inside this do while loop, if I want to stop this do while loop execution in the middle, you can write here exit do statement. We can use this. It will stop this do while loop execution in the middle. by using this exit do statement. But in the while loop, we can't use exit statement. It is not possible. There is no exit while statement available. It is wrong. Okay, let us try that. While loop. Run this while loop. While when. See, it is throwing error. Invalid exit statement in line number 6. Look at that. In line number 6, we have written exit while, which is not available. There is no exit statement available for while loop. We can't use exit statement inside while loop. Understand? But in do while or in do until or in simple do loop, we can use exit statement. We can write exit do statement. It will stop that do loop statement in the middle. But that option is not available for while loop. So this is another important difference between do while and while loops. We can't use exit statement in while loop. Are you clear? It is one important point in interview. It is a right generally frequently asking question, interview question. What is the difference between while loop and do while loop? There are two differences. One is syntax. Syntax is different. And another important difference is exit statement. You got it? That is another important difference between while and do while. Okay. Now, the next loop statement is for loop. For loop. Let us see this for loop syntax. Okay. See now, I want to display this. What is this? Input box message box. Input box 5 times. I want to find odd or even for 5 numbers. So I want to display the input box 5 times. Not more than 5 times or not less than 5 times. Okay. See now, let us. I will be writing for loop here. Save as for loop dot VBS. Display even or odd for 5 numbers. For 5 numbers. That is my program now. That means I want to display this input box statement 5 times. So remove this while loop and remove this while end. So this is the code for one number. Is it right? This is the code to find whether the given number, input number is odd or even, to find that one. This is the code. In the line number 3, we are getting the input number, and here we are checking that whether that number is even or odd inside this if condition, and we are displaying that message. So this code we have written for one number to find whether it is a even or odd. But what I want to do here, I want to display even or odd for 5 numbers, not for just one number. I want to display for exactly for 5 numbers. So here we can use here for loop for I equal to 1 to 5, and end of the loop is for loop is next. Next is the end of the for loop. That means I want to run this group of statements 5 times. 1 to 5 times. 1 to 5 times. Are you clear? That means here we know that how many times you want to run this group of steps. I want to run 1 to 5 times. So if you know how many times you want to run the group of steps, then in that scenario we can go for this for loop. Are you clear? The for loop will be used to execute some group of steps some n number of times, some m to n times or 1 to n times, like that. So here this code will display input box 5 times exactly, and we can find even or odd value for 5 numbers. Save it. Now run this for loop. See, it is first time. Even if I enter 0, 0 is even number. Still it will continue display because we defined a for loop. That for loop will be running 5 times. Whether you enter 0 or whatever the value you have entered here, it will run for 5 times. So again it will display 3 times. It is 4th time. It is 5th time. That's it. Now it is not displaying because 5 times are over. So 5 times this loop execution is over, completed. So it is not running 6th time. So that's why it is not displaying the input box 6th time. Are you clear the difference? The do while and for loop. When to use these loops? When we can use this for loop? And let's see here, in this for loop, we can define, see for example, 1 to 6. We can use one more option here. We can define one more option, step 2. See here, I is called here loop variable. I is here loop variable. So what will happen? While running this for loop, this I variable will be keep incremented by 1. If I don't write here step 2, now what is happening? First time when we are running this loop, first iteration, I value will be 1. Then it will run this loop. Again control will go to this I for loop, for statement. So here I will be incremented by 1. Now I becomes 2 second time. So second time it will run this loop. Again it will go to for statement. Now I value again incremented by 1. So now I becomes 3. So it will run third time this loop. Like this, every time in every iteration of the for loop, this loop variable I will be keep increasing by 1 by default. Suppose if I want to increase that I variable by 2 or by 3 or by 4 or by 5, yes, we can do that by defining step. See, I define here 3. What is this step 3? I want to increase this I variable every time by 3, not by 1. I want to increase this I variable value in every iteration by 3. Are you clear? So now how many times this loop will be running? Now this loop will be running only 2 times. Not even 2 times. I think so only once. Let us see that. Let me run this for loop now. See, now it is running first time. Second time also running. That's it. See, it is not running third time. So it is running only 2 times. Only 2 times it is running. See, first time I equal to 1. So it will run first time. Second time I value will become 1 plus 3, 4. So it will run second time. And third time, what is I value? 4 plus 3, 7. That 7 is not within this range. 1 to 6. We want to run I value up to 1 to 6. Up to 6. But I value currently it is 7. So it is exceeding this limit. 6th limit. So that's why the third time it won't run. Because the I value is increasing, exceeding this, the upper limit. The upper limit of I variable is 6. Up to 6 I want to run the loop. But whenever I value becomes more than 6, the loop will stop the execution. Are you clear? And similarly, we can write this for loop in different way. See, like this also. Save as for loop with a step, okay? Dot VBS. See, I can write in reverse also, 6 to 1. Like this also we can write. 6 to 1, starting from 6, that means I value will be starting with the 6 and coming down up to 1. That means if I value becomes less than 1, then this loop will stop execution. Now step value should be minus 3. I should define minus 3 because the I value should come from 6 to 1. That means the I value should be decreased, should not be increased now. Understand? 6 to 1 it should be. So the step value should be minus 3, negative value we should define. That means every time the I will be incremented by minus 3. That means I value will be decremented every time in every iteration now. Are you clear? So first time I equal to 6, it will run, and second time I value will be 6 minus 3, 3. So it is within this range. So it will run second time. And the third time I value becomes 3 minus 3, 0. But I value is allowed up to 1, not 0. So it won't run third time now. Now let us run this for step. See, it will run, it will display only 2 times. That's it. It is stopping the loop execution. Why it is displaying again? Okay, what file I have executed? This only, right? For step, right? For step.vbs. Okay. Let us see now. It is first time we are running. 2 is okay. It is second time. That's it. Only 2 times it should display the input box. Are you clear? So this code will run only twice. This loop will be running only 2 times, not more than 2 times. So how this I value will be changing now in each iteration? First time I value will be 6. In the second iteration I value becomes 6 minus 3, 3. And in the third iteration I value will become 0. So in the third iteration 0 is not within this range. So this third iteration will not be running. So it won't run. Only these 2 iterations this loop will be running. Are you clear? You got this point? Understand this? For loop. Okay. And we have one more for loop format that I will show you later. Okay, no, we can see that also now using arrays. The third format, let me define here. What is this for loop? What is the use of for loop? For loop executes group of steps n times. Okay, and in every iteration loop variable will be incremented by 1 by default. Okay, we can define increment value by using step option. Okay, and we can stop this for loop execution. We can stop for loop execution by using exit for statement. We can write this statement inside the for loop. If you want to stop the loop execution in the middle, then we can use this exit for statement inside the for loop. It is possible. Okay, this is the for loop statement, and we have one more for loop for each. There is one more format of for loop in VBScript. It is a for step. This is for each. See, this for loop will be used. It executes group of steps for each item or object in the collection of items or objects. Are you clear? What this for each loop is? The for each loop executes a group of steps for each item or object in the collection of items or objects. Collection of items means, example, array. Array is nothing but a collection of elements, right? Array. So suppose if I define one array with some 5 elements, and I want to run some group of steps for each element in that array. That is my requirement. That is my scenario. I have an array with 5 elements, and I have some group of steps. I want to run this group of steps with every element in the array. That is a scenario. So in such scenario, we can use this for each loop. Let us see that how to use that one. Let us go to new file. For example, let us write display all array elements in the array by using for each loop. Display all array elements in the array by using for each loop. Let us see that. First, let us define one array. I am going to define one array. See, I am writing one. Now I am declaring one variable dim. Okay. Name. Yes, name. Let us yes name equal to. Say I am defining my name. Okay, this is my full name. Now what I am doing here, I am going to split this string using blank space. It is one string. This string contains how many blank spaces? 1, 2, 3 blank spaces are there. So using these blank spaces, I will be splitting this array, splitting this string into an array by using this function, one small function, a name equal to, a name is a variable I am defining. It is array name. It is array name. One variable I am defining for array. That array name I defined as a name. Split is the function I will be using here. It is a VBScript function. Split VBScript function. We will discuss later more functions, VBScript functions, frequently used functions. I will explain you later. So split is one very frequently used function, split function. What it will do, it will split the string into an array by using some character. Example, I am going to split this string yes name by using blank space. This is the dividing character. This is called delimiter. This is the dividing character. That means I want to split this string by using white space. That means wherever there is a white space character in that string, there I want to split that. See here, first white space is here. So this value will be splitted, and this value will be stored in the first element of this array. Again, there is here white space. So here it will split again. So this value will be stored in the second element of this array. Again, there is a white space here. So this value will be stored in the third element of this array. And then finally, the last value will be stored in the fourth element of this array. So this function will split this string like that into this array. That means this string will be splitted into 4 elements. It is one element, it is second element, it is third element, and it is a fourth element. So this string is splitted into 4 elements, and those 4 elements are assigned to this array automatically by running this split statement. Now I want to print all the elements, all element values from this array. In this array, this split function should assign 4 elements into this array. What are those 4 elements? This is the first element, second element, third element, and fourth element. So I want to print those 4 elements or all element values from this array by using here for each loop. Let us see that. For each item, item, it is a variable. Item is a variable. To represent an element, an item in this array. ITM, I am defining one variable to refer array element. Item in a name. It is array name. That means in this array there are 4 items or 5 items. We don't know that count, exact count. So for each item in this array, I want to run this loop. Define here next. And inside that I am printing that MSG box ITM. Print that item. This statement will get each item from this array, and that item value I am printing inside message box. Are you clear? So this code will display all values from this array. Now save this file. For each .vbs. Now run this. There is wrong. Line number 2. Oh, correct. In VBScript, we discussed this point. We cannot initialize the value in the declaration statement in VBScript. It is wrong. So here what we are doing in the statement, we are declaring here. In the same declaration statement, we are assigning the value. It is not accepted in VBScript. So we have to assign the value here. Yes, name equal to. Like this we have to assign the value, not in the declaration statement. That is a problem. That is the error it was throwing. Now save it. Now double click this. See, this is the first value. Look at that. This is the first value displayed. And this is the second value displayed. And this is third value displayed. And the last one, prasad, or fourth element. That's all. No more elements are there. That means this message box statement is executed for every item or for every element in this array. In this array, there are 4 elements. First element is this one, second element, third element, and fourth element. These are the 4 elements assigned to this array, and this statement, MSG box statement, we are running for every element in this array by using for each statement, for each loop. You got this? Understand this? Hello? Hello, Anna, are you clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the for each loop. How we use in the VBScript. Fine. Now save this. So these are all the different types of loop statements that we use in VBScript. Let me write for each already defined. Okay. Let me write syntax as well. Syntax is this one. For each item in array, I will define it is directly. array. Here you can define steps. Next is that one, and here syntax is for, we have defined some variable I equal to, any variable we can use, I equal to some m to n, and define here step j, steps. Next, this is the syntax of for loop and for each loop. Okay, say this. So this is about control statements, loop statements and conditional statements in VBScript. Okay, now let us discuss another next topic. The next topic is functions and subroutines. How to define functions in VBScript. It is very important. In the real-time automation projects, we used to create every QTP script as a function. In the real-time projects, we don't create every automation script as a QTP actions. We don't create as a QTP action. We create every automation script as a VBScript functions. So this topic is very important. Okay, how to create a function, what is the syntax of function, and how to return the value from the function, and how to pass the data into the function. What are the different types of data passing methods are available. These concepts are very, very important in for real-time projects, to work in real-time project, as well as in entry point of view. It is very important concept, functions and subprocedures. Let us discuss that topic. Function first. See, actually in VBScript it is called procedures. There are two types of procedures in VBScript. VBScript procedures. What is the first one? It is first procedure type is called function, and the second one is called subprocedure or subroutine. It is called subroutine or subprocedure. It is simply called SUB. Subroutine or subprocedure. See, first let us see what is the function. Function means, function is an individual program which performs a specific task, which performs a specific reusable task. Are you clear? Function is nothing but it's like a normal program. It is like a VBScript program. It is a separate individual program which performs a specific and reusable task. Are you clear? So here, function, it can return the data. It can return the data. The function can return the data. Okay. It can return the data, and also it can return the data from the function. Sorry, not from the function. Already it means function only, right? It can return the data. Okay, now let us see that how to define a function. What is the syntax of function? What is the syntax of the function? How to define that? See, to define a function, we should follow this syntax. First, we should define a scope, that is called public or private. We have to define first what is the scope of that function, either public or private. Public means We'll discuss in detail what is the public and what is the private. After this scope, we have to write a keyword, function keyword. After that, we have to write the function name. The function name we should write, and then we should pass parameters to this function. We can pass multiple parameters to the function. We can define multiple parameters in the function. So we can define here parameters by val or by reference. Parameter 1. Like this we can define multiple parameters. Parameter 2. Space should be there here. It is parameter 2. Like this we can pass n number of parameters. And then declarations. We have to write any variable declarations inside that. Declarations. After that we should write steps, and then you should write here return statement, return value and end function. This is the syntax of a VBScript function definition, how to define a function. Okay, first we have to define function scope, either public or private, and then we have to define a function keyword, then we have to write a function name, then we have to define a function parameters. Multiple parameters can be defined, and each parameter is defined with data passing type, data passing method, either by val or by reference. Like this we have to define the parameters inside the function definition. Okay, and actually it is not mandatory. I will define it as a optional. Square bracket means we can assume that it is optional. If you want, you can define that, or you can ignore it. It is not mandatory to define every time this by val by reference. Similarly, it is not mandatory to define the scope. We can ignore that. Similarly, return statement also not important, not mandatory. We can ignore that. Declarations also not mandatory. If you require, we have to write. Are you clear? This is the syntax of, or it is not a syntax, the correct technical word. It is called function prototype. Function prototype. That means the function definition format. How to define the function. It is called function prototype. Prototype. Okay, now let me define one by one. What is the public or private? Public or private, what is this? It is called function. It defines function scope. It defines a function scope. That means what is the scope of this function? That means where this function can be used, in which part of the program this function can be available, or this function can be executed, or this function can be called, or this function can be used. That is called scope, the scope of the function, where this function is available for execution or for accessing. That is called scope of the function. That is defined by using public or private keywords. If the function is defined as a public, what does that means? Public means function can be called from any script or any function, from any function. That means anywhere we can call this function, from any script or from any library file or from any function, from any library file we can call this function. If any function is defined as a public, that function is a public function. That means global function that can be called from anywhere. If you define any function as a private function, can be called only within the script or library file where it is defined, but not in other scripts or but not in other library files. So that function is available only within that script or within that library file wherever that function is defined. Only there it can be available. Outside of that script or outside of that library file, this function cannot be accessed if it is defined as a private. Are you clear? That is called scope, public or private. Are you clear? And now the next one, by val by reference. What is this? Okay, before discussing about by val by reference, what is this return value? How to return the value from the function? How value can be returned from the function? What is the syntax? What is the statement we have to use to return the value from the function? Return value. Return value. See, the return value should be assigned to function name variable inside the function. To return the value from the function, what do we have to do? To return the value, to return the data from function, the return value should be assigned to function name variable inside the function. There is no return statement in VBScript to return the value. See, many guys, right, even with experience, with some 5 years, 4 years of automation experience in QTP, if you ask this question, how you can return value from the function, what they will say answer, they would say by using return statement. That is a blunder, mistake. It is wrong. There is no return statement in VBScript to return the value from the function. Then how to return the value from the function? Whatever the value that you want return from the function, that return value should be assigned to function name variable. Then with the name of the function, we have to define one variable, and to that variable you should assign return value. That is the way how we should return the value from the function. There is no return statement in VBScript. Okay, it is one very important point, how to return the value from the function. Okay, now let us see that one simple example. Let us define it. See, library file means these are the library files. Whatever we created here, .vbs, it is a library file. It is a library file. It is a library file. VBS file. .vbs file is called VBScript library file. Okay. So similarly, let us define one small function. See, for example, I want to create a function for something. Let us do some useful. Let us define some useful function. Okay. Okay. See, I want to create a function to return, to get the current date, current month name, and current date I want to get in this format. Write a function to get current date in this format, dd hyphen mon and yy. So in this format I need the date. In this format I want to get the current date. So I want to create one small function to get the date in this particular format. See, by default we don't get the date value in this format. We will see that also. What is that format? A default format. See, now I'm going to write one small function. Define it as a function name, get date is the function name, and here get date value, define d today, today's date I want, d today, it is a variable I'm defining. And one more thing, now right here simply date is the function. In VBScript there is a date function. This function returns current date by default. So the current date we are assigning to this variable. See here, I am not declaring this variable. Directly we are writing this variable name. So it is not a problem. In VBScript, it is not mandatory to define or to declare variables. Without declaring variables, we can directly use in VBScript. So that is another important feature of VBScript, which makes more easier to write a VBScript program. We no need to bother about variables declarations. Without declaring variables, directly we can use variables in the VBScript program. But in any other language, Java or C or C Sharp, it is not possible. In C or in C++ or in Java or in C Sharp, everywhere, before using any variable, that should be declared. But in VBScript, variable declaration is not required at all. Okay. See now, I want return this value, today's value. So what I have to do? I have to assign this variable value to this variable. See, this is the function name. So with this function name, I'm defining one variable equal to assign this variable value. That's it. End function. See that. So this is one simple function I defined. What I'm doing here, I'm getting current date value into this variable, and this variable we are assigning to this function name variable, because I want to return this value from this function. So how to get this value from this function? How to run this function? To run this function, we have to call this function somewhere inside our script. So inside this same library file, I'm going to call this function here. So I'm going to define one variable, dim d current date. Now d current date is equal to get date. Are you clear? This is the function definition where we define the function. And here what we are doing, here I declared one variable, and into this variable I am getting current date value. How I am getting current date value? By calling this function. Here I am calling this function. So this statement is called calling statement. It is a function calling statement. So inside this function we are calling this function. Inside this statement we are calling this function. Let me save this function .vbs or function library, I will say function lib.vbs. Save it. See, inside this statement I am calling this function. Now I want to print this date value, msg box d current date. Are you clear? So this is the function definition. And this is my script. So inside this script I am calling this function. So when you run this statement, what will happen? The control will come here directly inside this body, inside this function body. So it will run these steps. So here what we are doing in this statement, we return this value. So after running this statement, this value will be returned from this function, and that return value is assigned to this variable. Understand? That means this function returns some value, and that return value we are assigning to this variable. So this is the variable we are using to receive the data from this function. Understand? And now this variable value we are printing here. Now save this and let me run this library file. It is that function library. See that it displays in this format. The current date is returned in this format. What is this format? MMDDYYY format. By default, the date function returns the date in this format. In which format? MMDDYY format. But in which format I want the date? In this format I want the date. I want the date in this format, DDMON-YY, but not in this format. So that's why I want to define a function. Okay, why we are defining separate function here? By default, you will be getting the date in this format, but I want to get the date in this particular format, in this specific format. So what we have to do? First get the date in this format, and then we have to convert this format into this format. Let us write a code for that. How to convert this particular date from this format into this format. See here how I'm converting that. I'm using here some VBScript built-in functions. See, date is another built-in function. So far we have seen one function already. What is that function? Split function we have seen. And date is second function we are using here. And now I will be using two more functions, two more or three more functions, VBScript functions, built-in functions in this function. Let us say this. First get what is the current day number. Current day, I day equal to day of D today. See what I'm doing? This function returns the current day number from this date. In this date, what is the current day number? Only day number I am getting. That means DD value I am getting. That DD value I am assigning to this variable. Now similarly, get month value, month number, I month equal to month of today, date. So here I am getting current month number. That means value I am getting into this variable. Now next get year value. This is the year value I am getting into this variable. Now using this day, month, year, we have to create this format. See, to create this format we need month name, not a month number. But here we are getting month number. So again we have to convert this month number into month name. So for that again use one more thing. S month equal to month name right here I month. So it returns name of the month, name of this month into this variable. And here I year, it contains four digits. Year is nothing but 4 digits here, but I need only last 2 digits. I don't want 4 digits of year. I want last 2 digits. So here we have to get last 2 digits from this 4 digit number. So I year equal to write is the function we can use to get last 2 numbers from this 4 digit number. I year 2. What this statement function will do? It returns last 2 numbers from this year. It returns last 2 numbers. Okay, now we get all the things. Now write here D today equal to, what is the first one? D, day, I day. See again, this DD should be in two digits, not in single digit. So I want to confirm it. whether this id is a 2-digit number or not. So I want to check that length of that variable. Is it a 2-digit number or 1-digit number? If it is a 1-digit number, then what I want to do, I want to add 0 to that. Understand? Sday equal to I am attaching 0 to that id. See, I am checking this day value. Is it 2 digits or 1 digit? If it is 1 digit, I want to add 0 before that day number. That is what I am doing here. Similarly for month value. If month is 1-digit month, then I want to add 0 before that. No, sorry, for month not required because it is in month name, not a month number we are using here. So now I can form that day format, whatever we need. Day ampersand colon ampersand month name ampersand and a year. This is the format what we are looking for. So this is the format I want to return. The current date in this format we have converted this. Now save this function and run this. See that 24 October 15. Oh sorry, still it is displaying full month. I want only short month, not full month. So I think so I have defined here one more parameter, true. Yes, save it. Yes, now it displays short month 24 October 15. Yes, in this format I want to get the date, current date. See, by default we cannot get the date in this format, in this specific format. It will return the date by default in this format, but I want to convert this date format into this format. So for that I have created one function, get date. Are you clear? So this function, I can use this function in any QTP script wherever I want. Wherever I want to get the current date in this particular format, then I can call this function in that script. So this is the way we can write a function and we can define the function and how we return the data from this function. That is very important. See, this value is assigned to function name variable. This variable name is same as function name. That is a function name variable. And so this statement returns the value from this function. And that return value we are assigning to some variable. See, if I don't assign this get date function to this variable, it will throw error. See that. Cut this one. If I save this library file like this, and if you try to execute this, see it is nothing assigned. Okay, because it will actually throw first time if you run it will throw error, but here we already execute this function multiple times. Maybe that's why it is not throwing error, but it may throw error if you don't assign any variable here. And similarly, sometimes this brackets also sometimes mandatory if the function returns a value. Okay, it is always good practice to keep brackets if that function returns a value. If the function does not return any value, then these brackets are not required. We can ignore that brackets. Okay, any doubts here, Charians? No? How to define a function and how to return the data from the function. That's what we have seen now. And now let us see. Let us see. Data parsing methods. Okay, let us take some 10 minutes break and then we'll continue. Okay, just after that we'll discuss these important points. Data parsing methods. What is this data parsing methods? We'll discuss with examples. Okay, fine. Let us take some 10 minutes of break and then I will join you back.
Hello.
Oh, sorry, Nane, I didn't unmute my mic.
Uh, oh,
Okay. See, this is important point that
oh,
we discussed today. How to return the data from function. Okay. And here we define a small function to convert the current date into this format. Okay. Now let us see that data passing methods. Let us define one function with some parameters. Let us define separate file. Okay, not separate file, here itself in the same file I am going to define separate file. Let us go to different file. Now here I am going to create a function, to get nth day name. Nth day name, that means I want to add to the current date, I want to add some number of days, 10 days or 20 days or 100 days or 500 days, some days, and that day name I want to print. Suppose today is Saturday. If I add 7, then that day name also Saturday. I want to print date and time, day name, nth day name and date, both. Create a function to get nth day name and date. Are you clear? I want to get two things here, or I want to print two things here. Okay, let us define a function first of all. Or here I am giving input box to get the data from user. Input box, enter number of days, nth day and date, and the day name and date. By default I want to print 0. It is a default value. This is the message and this is the message box title, and this is a default value. Okay, and now let us define one function get nth day, nth date, and here you are passing, I am passing uh, n as a input. N, not n, give different name n because we are using already here n. So let me give some number of days, nod, number of days. It is a variable, it is a parameter, name. Okay, end function. Are you clear? Here I am going to define one function. What this function should do, it should display what is the nth day from current date, from today, what is the nth day name and nth date. So first of all we have to get nth date. End date is equal to the nth date is equal to today. It is the date. Today date means it returns current date, current today's date. It returns, this function returns today's date, plus number of days, how many days you want to add to that day. So add here nod plus number of days I am adding to that, so that here it will give final day, what is the target date. So from this date you want to get what is the day name. So how to get the day name? Get first day number, id equal to day of dnth day, and from this day you can get a day name. sday is equal to sday name equal to okay, let us use here what is that select statement. Select case I day. I'm using select case here. Case, if case is equal to 1, then what is the date we have to display? Monday. Okay, like this I'm defining case statements here for 7 cases. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and select and select. It is case 2 Tuesday. Case 3 Wednesday. Case 4 Thursday. Case 5 Friday. Case 6 Saturday. Case 7 Sunday. Okay, so this is the date, and I want to return this nth date. I want to return this nth date. So get nth date function name equal to nth day. Nth day. Are you clear? So this is the simple function. So I'm going to call this function here. N is equal to get nth date of n. I'm passing here n as input, and here display, sorry, not n, here define some variable d or I'm not assigning to anything. Directly I'm writing message box statement here. Message box of get nth date. Like this also we can write. You can assign this function to some variable, and that variable we can use inside message box statement, or we can directly write this function, call this function inside this message box statement. So here we are calling this function, and this function returns some value. That value will be printed inside this message box. Now let me save this. Get nth day, date, okay, dot VBS. Okay, so here we are passing one parameter now inside this function. What is that parameter we are passing? This is called calling statement, is it right? It is called calling statement. And what is the n? N is called here actual parameter. This is called actual parameter that we are passing into this function. And when you run this statement, and this calling statement will move the control into this path here automatically. So at this time what will happen? This n value will be assigned to this variable. Are you clear? That means whenever you run this statement, automatically control will come here to this function definition. So in this first step in the function definition, inside the function header, we have defined one parameter, number of days. So to this parameter, whatever the value we are passing, this is the variable we are passing. It is called actual parameter in the calling statement. So this actual parameter n value will be assigned to this variable or parameter defined in the function definition statement. So this NOD variable is called here formal parameter. So just you can remember simply one point. The parameters defined in the calling statement are called actual parameters, and the parameters defined in the function definition are called formal parameters. formal parameters. So now when you call this, when you run this statement, function call statement, automatically control will come to this function definition, and the actual parameter value will be assigned to this formal parameters. So the now n value will be assigned to NOD variable. So now this NOD variable value we are adding to date function. So it gives the final date, the result date, nth date, and from this nth date we are getting the day number, and using this day number we are getting the day name, and we are displaying that in the message box. And finally we return this nth date value, and this nth date value we are displaying here in this message box. That is what we are doing in this script. All of you clear? Now let me run this get nth day. Say that suppose from today I want to add next day, 7 days. Next day should be 7th day. That means it should be Saturday again. See that calendar. 24 plus 7. Definitely it should be 31st. Again it should be Saturday. Let us see that is it displaying correct date or not. See, it displays 10/31/2015. Is it right? 10/31/2015. And what is the day name? Where is the day name? It is not printing. Why day name is not printed? What is the problem? Maybe this red case is not matching with any of these values. Let me check that. id equal to day of d nth date. Okay, this is correct, right? 10/31. 31 should be written. Oh, got it. See, day number is 31, correct? So 31, right? So for 31 value is not present in this case values. That's why it's not printing. So I want what is that? Weekday name, weekday number I need. I think so. 1 second. Weekday name. 1 second. Weekday name. Yes, this is the function I have to write here, not date. I think so. I need it, or we no need all these things. Select case also not required. Directly we can write here yes day equal to this function I can use weekday name or weekday I have to use. I think so. Weekday of day nth I day. Again from here we have to get yes day is equal to weekday name of weekday I day. Like this we have to print. Now print here MSG box yes day. Let me run this. I want to add 7 days. Enter number of days that you want to add to the current date. Sorry, spelling mistake. MSG box. Where is it? MSG box. Run this. I'm adding 7 to check that is it displaying correctly or not. See that now it is displaying perfectly. So Saturday. Next 7th day is Saturday. And what is the date? 10/31st. 10/31st. So we can add any number of days. Suppose I want to find 122 days. After 122 days, Tuesday. What is the date? 2016, February 23. Are you clear? So here, this function will get what is the nth day from today. From today, what is the nth day, date as well as day name. It will print. Okay. Now what I will do a small change in this code. See that I am displaying here yes day value directly inside this function, correct? I don't display this. I will comment it. Instead of displaying this, what I will do, NOD, see that NOD value, right? I am using this variable. Instead of I day, I am using here NOD. See that simple logic I am doing. I modified here I day variable I was using before, but now I replaced I day variable by using this variable NOD equal to weekday of nth date. That means it returns weekday number. And using this variable, I want to get weekday name. Yes. Now this function will work as it is now. There is no difference now. Let us see that. It will work fine. If I enter 7, see Saturday, 10:31, it's working good. Okay. But where is the difference now? See that now I am displaying here MSG box n value. N value I am displaying here. Look at that here. Why I am displaying this n value? To understand how data is passing from this n to this NOD variable. I am writing here one more statement, MSG box of n. Now save this and let me run this. What is the value we are entering here? 7, correct? 7 I am entering. So, or not 7, or I will enter 14. 14 I will enter. I want to add 14 days to the current date. Click OK. Saturday. It is displaying Saturday. 14th is Saturday. And what is the date? 11/7/2015. So yes, right. It is 11/7/2015 is the date, correct. Now after this is the message box now displayed here. Now after clicking OK, it will run this statement, MSG box of n. What is the n value we entered? What is the n value we entered in the input box? 14 we entered. But now what value it will display? Let us see that. It is displaying 7. Look at that. Are you getting my point here? See, I will repeat again. Just see that I will explain once again. See that we are getting here number of days that you want to add. Number of days to be added. Okay. Suppose in the input box, whatever the value that you have entered, that value will be assigned to this n variable. And this n variable we are passing as input to this function. This n is called actual parameter. And when you run this statement, what will happen? The control will move to this function definition, and this n value will be assigned to this NOD variable. Is it right? And inside NOD variable, inside this function, what we are doing? We are adding this NOD variable to the current date. Then you will be getting the final date, and from this final date I am getting weekday number into this NOD variable, and by using this weekday number we are getting weekday name, and that weekday name we are printing here, we are displaying here, and we return this final date back, and that final date will be printed inside this message box. After this, again we are displaying the input value n. Are you clear now? The flow, how it is running. This is the actual parameter n value we are printing here. It is the actual parameter, correct? Actual parameter value we are printing here in the message box. See, in this statement, what we are doing here? Add NOD to current date. To current day. Current date. That is what we are doing here. Here, what we are doing? Get weekday number in the final date. In the final date. It is the final date. Add NOD to current date and assign to final date. It is the final date, and get final date. Not assign, get final date. We are getting here final date. So by using this final, what is that, weekday number, get weekday name, using weekday number, and here display weekday name, and here what we are doing? Return final date, return final date. So that is what we are doing here in each step. What we are doing, I have just simply written for your reference. Save it. Are you clear now? Just see that. See in this statement, what is the n value? Or if you want, I can print this statement again here. Before calling this function, I am printing here n value. What is n value? Input value. This is input. We are passing input value. Is it right? This is the input. Okay. Now, what is the input after here? See, before running this function, what is the n value? After running this statement, what is the n value? That is what you have to observe. Okay. Save it. Now run. So here I am entering 14. This is the input. Okay. See, this is the input 14. Now it is the function where this Saturday is displayed inside this function here. This is the day name. Here we are printing the day name. So this statement, this value is printed inside this function. Now click OK. Where this value is printed? In line number 4. This is the line number 4 is printing this, displaying this value. After this, it will come to line number 5. See, this is the value input. What is the current value? 7. What is the value in line number 3? 14. What is the value in line number 5? 7. That means the n value is changing after running line number 4. In line number 3, n is 14. Here n is 14. Is it right? But here n is 7. N value is 7 here. Why it is changing? That is because of data passing method by reference. Are you clear? See here in this function definition, we have not defined any data passing method for this parameter. So it will use default data passing method. So what is the default data passing method? Is by reference is the data passing method. Data passing methods is very important. Okay. Data passing methods. There are two methods. One is, let me define first, by val, and second one is by reference. So by reference is the default one. It is default one. It is default method. By default, if you don't define any data passing method for any parameter in the function definition, by default it will be using by reference method. So that is the reason why n value is changing here. Okay, first let us see that what is a by val, how it works. Let us see that by val. See, what is this by val method? If you define any parameter by using by val method, see here I am defining this NOD parameter, number of days parameter, with by val method. Using by val method, I define this NOD variable. Are you clear? Now, how data will be passed into this parameter from the actual parameter? If you define any parameter as a by val method, then the value of actual parameter in the calling statement will be assigned to formal parameter variable. If the formal parameter is defined as a by val method, then how data will be passed into this formal parameter? The value of actual parameter will be assigned to this formal parameter. That is a definition. Say that. By val method, what happened? The value of actual parameter defined, where it will be defined? Defined in the calling statement. In the calling statement, we define the actual parameters. Will be assigned to formal parameter defined in function definition. In function definition. Are you clear? the value of actual parameter which is defined in the calling statement will be assigned to formal parameter defined in the function definition. So what will happen now? The value of n will be assigned to this nod variable. See, both are variables. Actual parameter is one variable, formal parameter also one variable, but both are two different variables. Understand? So if you define by val for the formal parameter, if you define this method for formal parameter, then how the value will be passed into this formal parameter? The value of actual parameter will be assigned to this formal parameter. That is the rule. Now after this value is assigned from n to nod, what is the nod value? 14. N is 14 now. That 14 is passed here. This value 14 will be assigned to this nod variable. Now inside this function, what we are doing? In this statement we are adding 14 to this date, current date. So final date we are getting. And in this line number 9, what we are doing? We are getting here weekday number from this final date. From this final date we are getting weekday number. This weekday number, this function returns 7. This function returns 7. So 7 is assigned to this nod variable. Are you clear? So initially nod value was 14 here. In this statement, what is the nod variable? 14. But in line number 9, the nod variable value is changing to 7. Understand? Now in line number 10, we are getting what is the weekday name for 7. It is a Saturday. Okay. Still nod value is 7 here also. In this statement also, nod variable is 7. Nod is 7. Is it right? Nod is 7 here. But in this statement, nod is 14. Nod is 14. Are you clear now? Now, in this by val method, this nod variable is different variable. N variable is a different variable. There is no relation at all between these two variables. Now, if you run this function by using this by val method, see that. Now I will be running it. I am entering here again 14. Click OK. Input is 14 before running the function. Now it is inside the function. Saturday is displayed. This is the outside of the function here. In line number 4, we are printing that final date. Final date is 7. Now it will print input value n. It is 14 now. See that. Now n value is 14. Now n is 14 here. N is 14. When n is 14, if this formal parameter is defined by using by val method, n value is not changing. Are you clear the point? If you define here nod variable using by val method, then this n parameter is not changing. N parameter is not changing. Okay, if n parameter is not changing, why it is not changing? The logic is simple. N is here separate variable, nod is separate variable. If you use by val method for formal parameter, actual parameter and formal parameter both are two different variables. So n value will not be updated or modified by using this formal parameter. That's what happened. But if I remove this by val, what is happening? Now nod parameter, that means formal parameter, is defined with using by reference method now. So let us see that. I will define now by reference method by using by reference method. Now this parameter, formal parameter, is defined by using by reference method. Now see that what is the n value, how it is changing. Now run this. Sorry, there is one more function. Okay. Again I am entering 14 here. Done. Input is 14 and Saturday and day is right. Now let us see what is the n value we printed. 7. See that. Now n is printing 7. See, n is equal to 14 if formal parameter is defined by using by val, correct? But n value is 7 if the formal parameter is defined by using by reference. Clear? See, now n value is 7. That means n value is changing. N value is modified. How it is possible? How this n value is modified? See, we are not using n value directly anywhere inside this function. Correct. We are not using this n variable directly inside this function. What we are doing? We are passing this n as input in the function calling statement. And for this actual parameter, there is one formal parameter in the function definition. And this formal parameter is defined by using by reference method. So when a formal parameter is defined using by reference method, how data will be passed into this formal parameter? That is the way the data will be passed into this formal parameter is different from by val method. If you define this variable as a by val parameter, then what happens? How data is passing into this formal parameter? Simply the value of n variable, nothing but actual parameter, will be assigned to this formal parameter. So n is a separate variable, NOD is a separate variable. Both are two different variables. Simply n value is assigned to NOD variable if this NOD parameter is defined using by val method. But now what happens? Now this NOD variable parameter is defined using by reference method. So in this case, what will happen? The address of n variable, not the value of n variable. What will be assigned? The address of n variable will become or will be assigned to this NOD variable address. Are you getting my point? What is this address? Every variable in the program, in any program, if you write some program and if you declare one variable in any program, at the time of execution, for every variable, some memory space will be allocated to store that variable value. Understand? To store that variable value, some memory space will be allocated for every variable. See, for this n, there would be some memory space allocated in the RAM. Similarly, here NOD is another variable. So, to this variable, some other memory space will be allocated in the RAM. Are clear? Now, every memory space, how in the RAM the memory is a partition in the form of small memory cells. The RAM is nothing but a collection of memory cells. In each memory cell, we can store 1 byte of data, and every memory cell has some hexadecimal unique address in the RAM. In the computer RAM, every memory cell has some unique hexadecimal address. Every memory cell has some address, unique address. Understand? So, for this n variable, some memory space is allocated in the RAM. That memory space has some address. Similarly, this NOD variable, for this NOD variable, some other memory space is allocated in the RAM. This memory space also has some address. So here there are two variables and there are two different memory locations for those two variables. So when you define by val here, what is happening? So I can show you one small representation format, a pictorial format, so that you can understand better. Let me open some PPT. Okay, let us take this one. Okay, let us see here simply. I'm trying to show you some pictorial format, how it works. Let us assume that This is the memory space. Okay, this is the, not this one, insert a table. This is the some memory cell, memory. Okay, okay, so this is the memory cell. Each cell is just, I'll assume that memory cell, and each cell has some address. This is the RAM. Now here, when we are running this program, whenever you find first time n variable, in line number 2 we defined n variable. So immediately what VBScript interpreter will do, it will allocate some memory space to this n variable. So let us assume that this cell is assigned for n variable. Okay, so this is the n variable. This is the memory location allocated for n variable. Now similarly, when you run the statement, this line number 4, the control is coming to this line number 7. In line number 7 there is one more new variable, NOD variable, formal parameter. So for this variable again some other memory space will be allocated. Let us assume that this is the memory location allocated for actual formal parameter. Okay, this is the formal parameter NOD. Now what is the current value of n that we are assigned here? In line number 2 n value is assigned with 14, correct? So here n value will be 14. So n value is 14 here, 14. N value is 14. So when you run this statement, when you come to line number 7, depends upon the method what we are using for this NOD parameter. Suppose here if you are using by val, then how data will be assigned to this NOD variable? The value of n. What is the value of n? 14. This 14 will be assigned to this NOD variable. So this value become 14. Are you clear? Now, so after running the 7th line, the NOD value becomes 14. So in line number 18, what is the NOD value? Still 14. But in line number 9, what is the NOD value? 7. So in line number 9, NOD value is changing to 7. Now it becomes 7. After running line number 9, are you getting this point? After running this line number 9, statement 9, the NOD value is changing to 7 from 14. So that will be updated here immediately. But still n value is 14. See, n value is not changing here because n is a different variable, NOD is a separate variable. Two different variables. So whatever the changes that we are doing on this variable is not reflecting for this n variable. Here n is the actual parameter, NOD is formal parameter in the function definition. So we are modifying here formal parameter inside the function. So in this function we are changing this NOD value. So if you make any changes to this formal parameter, that changes will not be reflected on actual parameter. When these changes will not be reflected? If this formal parameter is defined using by val method. So that is the reason when we define here NOD parameter using by val method, here you are getting n value is 14. That means n value is not changing at all. But when you define this NOD parameter using by reference, now what happens? See, n value is 14 here. Let me see that what will happen now. See, remove this value. In line number 2, initially it is empty, no value for NOD. Okay. In line number 2, what is n value? 14 is 14. Is assigned with 14 in line number 2. And next one, close this. Okay. In line number 4, we are calling this function and control is coming to this line number 7. In line number 7, there is one parameter defined using by reference method. So now what is happening? The address of actual parameter, that means n, will be assigned to formal parameter address. What does this means? See here, value is not assigning here, value is not passed here. In the byval method, the value of actual parameter is assigned to formal parameter. But when you define a formal parameter using by reference method, what's happening? The address of actual parameter n is assigned to formal parameter address. What does that means? What will happen now? The address of n, this is the cell. Suppose it is a cell 1, it is cell 2. For example, 2 is the address for this n variable. So the address of n variable will become address of nod variable as well. That means both the variables, n variable and nod variable, both the variables will be having same memory address. After running this line number 7, if this formal parameter is defined using by reference method, what will happen? The address of n actual parameter will be assigned to formal parameter address. That means both the parameters, actual parameter and formal parameter, both the parameters are variables will be having same memory address. That means now nod will not be having this memory cell anymore. This nod variable also defined with the same memory cell address. With the same memory cell address. Are you clear? So n variable and nod variable, both the variables having same memory address now. So what is the n value now? What is the value stored in this memory space? 14 is the value stored. So this memory space is referred by two variables, n and nod. So whatever the value is stored in this location will be assigned automatically for both the variables. So now nod value becomes 14, n value also 14. After this statement, what we are doing in line number 9? In line number 9, we are changing this nod value from 14 to 7. That means this value will be updated here from 14 to 7. What value we are updating? We are updating nod variable value, but not the n variable. Is it right? Inside this function, we are changing the nod variable. That means that value will be updated in this memory location. The same memory location is assigned to n variable as well. So whatever the value you have stored in this memory location will be automatically assigned to n variable also. So whatever the changes that you do on this nod variable, which is a formal parameter in the function definition, whatever the changes that we do in this function on this functional parameter will be automatically reflected on variable n, which is actual parameter in the calling statement. So that is the reason whenever you change this nod variable value to 7, automatically n also will become 7. That's why n also becomes now 7. Understand the point here? See, I will give you, if you are, it is a 14, it is a byval. It is a first value is 14 and from then it is changed to 7. Are you clear? This is the byval method. In byval method, how it works. And in by reference method, what's happening? This is completely deleted. First 14 and 7. Yes, remove this one. Are you clear? In the by reference method, n and nod, both the variables will be having same memory address. So inside the function, if I modify this nod variable from 14 to 7, automatically n variable also will be modified. This is the main difference between byval and by reference. You got this concept, Chari and Anna? Any doubts? It is a by val, and this is a by reference. How it works. Okay, so that is the reason when you define here by reference, now n value becomes 7 automatically. Let us see that if I run this. So I am defining here 14. See, 14 is displayed here before in line number 3. Now this is in line number 11. Day name we are printing here inside the function. And this is line number 4. We are printing the final date. And now this is line number 5. See, n value becomes 7 because this formal parameter is defined using by reference method. And if I define here using by val, it won't change. N value will not be changing. See that. 14 again I am passing. Input value is 14 in line number 3. And this is line number 11. And this is line number 4. Now it is 14 in line number 5 because the formal parameter is defined using by val method. So understand this concept, the by val and by reference methods, how these methods works. Okay, it is very important. Okay, see, now tell me, using VBScript function, is it possible to return more than one value? Using in VBScript function, is it possible? See, this is the script. Okay, this is my script. Inside the script I am calling this function. Understand, this is the function definition, and this function I am calling inside the script. So this is the calling script, it is a function. So is it possible to return more than one value from the function? Yes or not? No, we should be able to pass more than, we should be able to return more than one value. How it is possible? By using by reference parameters. I can define multiple parameters using by reference method, correct? So using by reference parameter, indirectly we are automatically updating actual parameter value. So if I assign some value here, if I use here by reference method, understand, and then if I assign some value to this variable, the same value automatically assigned to this actual parameter as well, correct? So using these by reference parameters, it is possible to return more than one value. See, using this return statement, we can pass only one value, but using this by reference parameters, it is possible to return more than one value. Understand? Okay, so this is about functions creation in VBScript. Now let us say that subroutine. Subroutine is nothing but subroutine or subprocedure. It is nothing but similar to function, but only difference is the subroutine cannot return any value and function can return the value, and all other features are same as a function except this small difference. It cannot return any value. It cannot return any value, but we can use by reference parameters in subroutine also, like a function, but only the function subroutine syntax will be changing little bit. Instead of writing function, we should write sub. All other options are similar to function. The syntax. Instead of writing here function, we should write here sub. And there should be no written value in the subroutine. We have to remove this. This is the syntax of subroutine, prototype of subroutine. So these parameters and all we can define using by reference or by val, same options. But there is no return value statement in the subroutine because subroutine cannot return any value. That is only one small difference between function and subroutines. But generally we will be using mostly functions, not subroutines in the real-time projects also. Mostly we'll be using functions. Okay, so are you clear now? Fine. Now let me give you some important VBScript functions. See, most frequently used functions list. I will give you some 20 functions will be there. Just we have to remember these 20 functions because we will be using very frequently these functions in the QTP script creation as well, in the QTP scripting also. So let's see that VBScript built-in functions. Built-in functions. First I will explain you string functions. These are the important functions. String functions. We have string functions length to return length of the string. What is the input for this? Any string we can pass as input. And strcomp, string comparison. We can compare two strings, string 1 and string 2, and here we can pass 0 or 1. That is the input for third argument. 0 means binary comparison, 1 means text comparison. Okay, and it returns returns 0 or -1 or 1. That is the return value, 1 or -1. Are you clear? 0 means both the strings are equal. If it is not 0, both the strings are not equal. String comparison. And similarly we can use instr, starting position, string 1, string 2, again 0 or 1. 0 means nothing, simple thing. We can assume that 0 means it is a case sensitive comparison. 1 means case insensitive comparison. Like that we can assume. 0 means case sensitive, 1 means case insensitive comparison in the third argument. In this argument, I'm telling. Okay. And what is this 1? What is a 0 means? Strings are equal here. If it is not 0, both the strings are not equal, not same. That is the meaning of that. Now what is the 1 here in instr? 1 means starting position, starting character, starting character number in string 1. Okay, and str1, what is this? Main string. Okay, this is the main string. And str2 is nothing but this is the substring. Looking for, searching for. We are searching for this. You are searching for second string, substring. So that means we are searching string 2 inside string 1. Whether this string 2 is displayed inside the string 1, I want to check that. Then we will use this instr function to verify that whether string 2 is displayed inside string 1 or not. We use this function. So what is this 0, 1? 0 or 1? Case sensitive or case insensitive? Case sensitive or insensitive? Insensitive. Insensitive comparison. Okay, what it returns? It returns 0 if str2 not exist in str1. Are you clear? Or it returns greater than 0 if it exists, if str2 exists in str1. That means it returns positive value. It returns positive value, positive number, I can say. It returns a positive number. Okay, that is the instr. Important. These functions are very important. Okay, and now length function. It is simple, already defined, right? Length. Left function. Left str and give that number of characters. That means it returns n characters. First n characters in string. Okay, and similarly write str comma n, it returns last n characters. Okay, that is right. And next one, mid str starting character and the number of characters. That means it returns a substring starting from s character, from character number s, returns a substring with n characters, starting from character s, okay. That means suppose if I define 1 comma 5, it returns a 5 character substring starting from first character in str. That's what it will do. Mid. And now replace str1, find the characters and replace characters. That means in string 1 it will replace these characters with these characters. All these characters, whatever you define here in the second argument, will be replaced with these characters. It will replace the substring in the main string. Okay, this is the, and another important thing, split function. We have seen that split function str, and we have to define dividing character. We have to define here the character which divides. What it returns? It returns an array with the splitted values. Okay. And next one, ASC. Here you have to define a character as input. It returns ASCII code number. For the given character. And one more thing, CHR. Here you have to pass ASCII code. You have to pass as input. It returns character name, for the given ASCII code. Okay, this is the character. And the next, another important thing, trim, ltrim string. It terminates left side blank spaces, left side extra blank spaces. And rtrim terminates right side blank spaces. It terminates right side blank spaces. Okay, And there is a trim function, trim. It terminates both the sides, left and right side, blank spaces. It terminates both the sides, blank spaces both sides. Terminates blank spaces both sides. Both sides. Okay. These are all common and simple and easy functions and frequently used functions, string functions. Okay. And join. 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 We have to pass here array as input and character. Joining character. See, it is opposite to split function. The split function will split the string into array using this character, and join will join all array elements using this character into a string. Are you clear? It joins, it returns a string. That means it joins all array elements using character into a string. Okay, so that string will be returned by using join. And these are all some important string functions, and we have some array functions. Array functions we have what is that? U bound. It is the important thing. U bound of array. We have to give array name. U bound means it returns maximum or last element index number. Returns last element index number. That is called U upper bound. Now, is it audible? Maybe I can observe that my audio might be reconnected. Is it audible now? Yeah, okay, might be my audio connection might be reconnected. Okay, so U bound means it returns last element index number. It is called upper bound. Similarly, L bound of array. So it returns first element index number. Least returns first element index number. That is 0. Always it will be 0. Correct? That is a L bound. And we have some other, what is it? Arithmetic functions. Important arithmetic functions. Frequently used arithmetic functions. We have a few functions. Arithmetic functions. Arithmetic functions. So some important thing, round function. Here you have to give some numeric value. Okay, numeric value with a decimal point. Round off. It will round off the decimal digits. It will round off the decimal digits. Digits to nearest number, to nearest value. Okay, round off. Similarly, we have different options. We have SEIL, seal, SECE, CIEL. It's not there. Floor also not there. Okay, find integer. It returns integer part of the floating point number. Integer. Okay, so like this, these some few things are round and integer functions we'll be using. And apart from that, try to have another important thing, arithmetic array functions. date and time functions. These are the functions we already used some date and time functions already in our functions. Example, date, it returns a current date, and now it returns only current date, returns current date, and now returns current date and time, both date and time, and time returns current time, only current time. Okay, and day of date you have to use any date, current date, or any date value you have to pass as input. Returns day number, day number in the date, in the given date. Okay, and similarly month of date, it returns a month number in the given date. Similarly year of date, it returns year number in the given date. Okay, and similarly you can get hours, hour of time. In the given time, what is the hour number? Returns hour value, hour value in the time. Similarly you can get minute, minute of time, it returns minute value, returns minute value in the time. And similarly you can get second, second of time, it returns second value, seconds value in time. So like that we can get month name, we have to pass here month number, month number we have to pass, month number as input, returns name of the month, returns month name. And we have one more parameter, true or false. That means whether do you want to short name or full name. If it is false, it returns full name. If it is true, it returns short name. Clear? So similarly date add, we can add to current date, we can add number of days or number of months or number of years or number of seconds, number of hours we can add by using this date add function. And a date difference, we can find a difference between two dates using this function. So okay, these are few important date and time related functions that we will be using frequently. And these are the functions, right, easy functions. Just if you practice one time, all these functions you could remember forever, you don't forget it. It is easy to remember and work with. Okay, so you can please write what I will show you that some examples also where you can find examples to practice all these functions. In UFT user guide you can find all the examples for each and every function with the code. You can simply copy that code and you can try to execute that function and to understand how it works. Okay, so just you can practice that, and if you have any doubts on any function, then I can show you that examples and execution how it works. Hopefully if you try that code execution easily you can understand. I will show you that one where that is available. 1 second. In my system QTP is not installed. Okay, fine, maybe in the tomorrow session I will show you that where you can find the examples code for all these functions. Then you can start practicing at least once all these functions. Now what I will do, I will give you some exercises. Okay, for scripting exercises, I want you to create a functions by using these functions, built-in functions, and using for loops or control statements, if conditions or loop statements, and these built-in functions. I want you to create some functions. I will give a few exercises for your practice. Let me save this first. VBScript built-in functions. .vbs. Okay, fine. See what are my exercises. My first one is my first question. First exercise is create a function. Create a function to display left dots triangle. That means it should be displayed like this. See, I will show you this one. Asterisk and one space, not space, asterisk. Go to second line. In the first line, only one asterisk should be displayed. Second line, two asterisks should be displayed with the space. In third line, it should display three asterisks with the space, separated by spaces like this. You got the logic? You have to think the logic. How this? Suppose to this function, I will be passing number of lines. How many lines of triangle I want to display? Suppose if I give 4, it should display this triangle. If I give 5, it should display one more line. 5 lines should be displayed like this. This is the left triangle. Are you clear? So I want you to create a function to display this triangle using asterisk or any character or dot or something. But one input I have to pass to that function. What is that input? Number of lines. Create a function to display left triangle for with n lines. So that number of lines we have to pass as input. That is one thing. And the second one, same thing. Create a function to display right triangle. Same thing. I want to display in the right triangle shape, not in left triangle shape. Right triangle with n lines. That means it should be displayed like this. Suppose if I want to display 3 lines, then 1, 2, 3. Here it should display dot. 3 lines I am showing. In second line, it should display 2 dots. It should be here. It should come here. Now this is the third line. Space. This is the third 3 line triangle. So like this, depends upon the number of lines I have given, it should display the triangle. Are you clear? And similarly, display, see, these are all something you have to think the logic. That's why I'm giving these examples. See, to display these triangles, definitely you have to think logic, how to display this shape. Okay, so really, right, it will help you to understand the logic and write the script using control statements, different types of loop statements we have to use here. Okay, third one, create a function, same triangle. Now I want to display center triangle, not right and left. Center triangle. Center triangle, how it should be displayed? It should be like this. It should be like this. Suppose if it is 3 lines, 3 lines I want to display. 1, here. This is the first line. Second line. One second, I'm not giving correctly. 1. First I should come from the last line, only then I can create this shape. Okay, See, in the third line, it should display how many? It should display, in the first line, it should display only 1. In second line, it should display 2. Yeah. In third line, it should display 5. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In second line, it should display 2, 3. Like this, it should display. Center triangle should be displayed like this. Are you clear? So I want to write a function. See, the number of lines should be dynamic. I have to give as input. You have to give as the input. So if you can think logic and if you can display this triangle, you can be able to work in any automation project, however it is complex. Simple logic. See, in the automation projects, right, you may not be write this much complex logics also. Okay, you don't need to write this much complex logics in automation projects, that much easier. So if you can do this, that automation project is nothing. You can easily write a scripts, create a scripts. So this logic, simple logics, just simply have to think how this shape will be coming. You got my point? See, in the first line, only one character. In the second line, see, it should be like this. In like this, it should display the shape, center triangle shape. In the first line, only one dot. In the second line, 3 dots. In the third line, 5 dots. In the fourth line, it should be 10 dots. In the fourth line, there should be 10 dots. Okay, like that, right? The triangle shape should come in the center triangle shape using asterisks or any character. Can you try this? Try this functions creation, and maybe if you cannot, then I can show you this logic. Simply, I want to write, give an opportunity, just try to think, that's it. Try, think and try, just try to create a function. It is not a difficult one if you think and if you can find the logic, how to frame this shape, that's it. It is triangles, triangles.vbs. Save this one. So you please take this as a exercise, functions exercise. So you have any doubts? So these are the important concepts in VBScript that we should know. Then you are ready to start creating QTP scripts. You can work with QTP. If you know this VBScript basic concepts, if you understand these basic concepts and if you practice a few programs using VBScript, you can confidently work in automation project using QTP. Say frameworks and all, right? You can easily understand that frameworks and all. Once you get into the project, then you can understand that framework and you can start working with framework. That is not the matter. First thing is you should be able to create a script. That is important. If you are able to create a script, then you can understand framework also. Then you can work with framework. So this is the main important basic requirement. You should be able to create a script. To create a script, first you should have basic understanding of VBScript based fundamentals. And if you understand the VBScript fundamentals, then we can easily work in any automation process. No doubt about that. See, whatever the concepts so far we discussed in VBScript, these are the basic concepts. Just I want you just do some practice. That's it. I will show you tomorrow where you can practice all these functions, VBScript functions, everything. And I want you try these examples. Okay, anything else?
Okay.
Anything else now?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Tomorrow at 3 p.m. Tomorrow we'll start with what is that QTP. First we will see that these 3 examples. You try tomorrow. if you can create a logic for these three exercises. If you want give me some time, I can give some time, otherwise I can explain it tomorrow these examples, how to frame this, how to build up the logic. Okay, then we can start with the qtp uft tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.